Hello and welcome to episode 191 of Rush Roundtable, where we will be talking about the song Stick It Out, which was the first single off of 1993's Counterparts album. As far as the panel goes, once again, and it's another week where Kira and I are joined by a Midwesterner and a Canadian drummer. So yes, as I say, I have Kira here, we have Tail, we have Ryder, not necessarily in the order of description. So, Stick It Out, basically beginning with a drop D heavy riff that, from my perspective, kind of called back all the people that sort of said, well, I don't like the keyboards, we have this heavy riff. So what does anyone have to say about that intro opening of the song?
I think you put it very well, how it's so far detached from the more lighthearted stuff that was coming out of the 80s and, very early 90s. This record has some balls. And for the lead single and for a track very early on in the listing, man, it really opens it up with a super heavy riff. It's such a great one to really highlights the bass. Any bass player can attest that when they're allowed to go down to drop D, it gets pretty fun. It really highlights the really gritty sound of this album, and it's just such a big, impactful opening to the track.
Yeah, I would say this is probably the first truly heavy and ballsy Rush song since before the synth period. Because even Animate being on this album, it's still kind of a warm-up. It's not crazy in your face yet, but then this riff just comes in, like Animate ends, it just got the ba da da da, and you're like, oh yeah, that is the early Rush I was missing. I mean, I'm not saying this personally because I love the synth period, but for other fans.
I was gonna say that I'm a non-musician, so I'm not able to pick out like different things in the music like Ryder and Tal can. I wish I could. I can't. But this riff is just so good. It's so badass. Excuse my French. Total showstopper. And I have to say, even though I normally can't pick things out in the music, Getty's bass just like really shines. Like every time I listen to this song, that bass is just, can't get enough. It's so good. It's like candy. It's juicy and sweet. And this is some of like the best kind of, I want to say it's sort of metal, but this is like the best like heavy rock riff they've had since, oh my goodness, I'm gonna say like the earlier 70s. I really like that they got back to their roots in this one, and the riff to Stick It Out is just chef's kiss. Can't beat it.
Wouldn't have exactly worked the same if Getty decided to use the Steinberger wall again. Like, the jazz for this one, and I think it's very appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
J-bass with the Ampeg that was ready to explode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So get that explosive tone. And not to jump the gun as far as live performances, but I just think I was listening to some of the live videos that are out there, the track from Michigan from 1994 where Lifeson had a non-Floyd Rose equipped Les Paul, that just had, you could tell in the recording, just the absolute punch. And I was at that concert on that tour like a month later, and it's sort of, yeah, that really, I mean, more than say the Time Machine, it just really, the riff just comes in and is just right in the face. So let's get into the lyrics basically. So first verse, trust in your instincts if it's safely restrained. Lightning reactions must be carefully trained. Heat of the moment, curse of the young. Spit out your anger, don't swallow your tongue. Any words on the words?
Man, well, I really like the continuation of Hold Your Fire themes, more instinct and restraint. I like this like playful kind of seesaw back and forth. It's in Hold Your Fire, it's in Animate, now it's in Stick It Out. And I really like when Neil writes those lyrics. Personal preference, but everyone knows I will defend Hold Your Fire till the day I die.
It's a great album. These lines here towards the end, spit out your anger, don't swallow your tongue. Very violent, especially coming in with the music video of this, with the guy shaking around in the chair.
Yeah.
It's this song is intense. It really, like, along with the opening riff, it shows like this, we're not like grand designs like like at the end, like this is like kind of like a little scary almost. And I think these lyrics do a great job of just like getting you in that the mood of just that angry feeling, especially going into the chorus when it gets a little faster. Definitely a great job of just like, I always say painting the image. Super, super dark lyrics right here at the start.
Well, there was an interview with Neil where he was saying that to him it was really more wordplay, so he wasn't really necessarily going for probably as deep of lyrics as he normally would, but they're still deeper than many. But the idea, you think, trust in your instincts if it's safely restrained. I mean, the idea of just, as Neil Wood, the idea of you got to basically go by gut, go by feel, but obviously you want to have that sense of awareness, for lack of a better term, maybe some little bit of education, maybe some bit of, and like as it moves on, a bit of training, even the lightning reactions, as far as if you're learning an instrument, you have to be able to respond in the moment. So you have to be carefully trained, ideally. You don't necessarily have to, but it works well. And obviously Neil's drum parts kind of show us that. Same works for martial arts. No one's ever really going to attack you when you're coming out of a class. It's when you got 5 bags of groceries. Keep that in mind, anyone who's getting into an apartment. Not that that's probably going to happen. Swallow your tongue. The thing that kept coming up in my head because humans, we actually physically can't swallow our tongue. So like anyone who would try to stick something in the mouth of someone who's having a seizure, the real danger is chewing up your tongue if you're seizing. Not that we want to get negative and medical here, but swallow your tongue has more to do with the more of a phrase that deals with admitting you're wrong. So at that point, kind of spit out your anger, but don't swallow your tongue. Don't admit you're wrong. Wordplay.
Yeah.
How creative, how clever.
Well, let's move into that chorus and check that out. So once again, the direct, much like he was doing in Animate, rather direct lyrics for the chorus. So a rather prominent stick it out, don't swallow the poison, spit it out, don't swallow your pride, stick it out, don't swallow your anger, spit it out, don't swallow the lies. And of course, live Getty back in 94 and at Time Machine still, they had the backing. I'm saying backing tracks. I don't like saying that like that because it comes off almost now as a negative connotation, but they always use samples. So they had the sample of the vocals singing Stick It Out, and certainly Lifeson would join in on that. But what about that chorus?
Yeah. I really like well, first and foremost, I would be remiss to not mention that we have 2 members of the Stick It Out show that we had on Rush Fans, me on season 2 and Tal on season 3. Great that we got some Stick It Out blood in this roundtable. And if you haven't checked it out yet, 3 seasons of that show, incredible. We all went through and we made lists of songs that we didn't like. Well, not necessarily didn't like, but some of them that we weren't necessarily as big on, or, some of them actually, yeah, we did not like them at the time. And we would do a little challenge to listen to them for 2 weeks. Really great. Check it out if you haven't. Sorry to stray off of that. But, coming in this chorus, I love bouncing between stick it out, spit it out, for don't swallow the poison, going back from don't swallow your tongue, all these things, don't swallow the poison, don't swallow your pride, kind of a thing thinking about when you're challenged, you have adversity coming at you to don't let yourself succumb to this like sort of hatred, don't let yourself follow down, be strong, stand up, don't swallow your pride, be who you are. I think it's like a really powerful message, and coming off of the super heavy riff, definitely very motivating. Stick It Out is a song I listen to quite often before and while I'm working out, and when I'm going into work, when I'm having a very bad day. Definitely gets me in the mood to just like power through it and just get through things.
That's what
Sorry,
you guys first.
I just want to say quickly how it almost seems like that guy in the chair in the music video, like you mentioned, Ryder, seems like this chorus is sort of saying if you do swallow the poison, you do swallow the pride and the lies, you might end up restrained like the guy in that chair. Like, so if you're able to overcome that and be stronger enough to sort of escape out of that chair, then you'll kind of have your success, like the mention of this song, like the message of this song, I mean, and you can overcome that adversity, like you mentioned. It's just something I sort of thought of.
I also see it as well. Okay, so Counterparts is all about duality, which took me a while to register until we were on the anime discussion, which if you haven't watched, go watch it on YouTube, please. Thank you. That Counterparts is about duality and the lyrics are about duality. It's like, oh, duh, of course they are, right? So I don't know. When he says, don't swallow, spit it out, don't swallow your pride. I think we like tend to like hold things back that we really want to say, but we're too scared to say it because we feel like we're going to upset someone or the establishment, the status quo, whatever it is that you want to say. So it's almost like he's saying just say it. Like just say your truth and say how you feel, even if it's bad or it offends people. So that's what I like take away from it. And I don't know, like this, like back and forth where Neil mentions instinct and restraint all throughout Hold Your Fire, especially Lock and Key, and then he brings it back up and Animate, and now in this song makes me think that he's trying to tell us something.
It's definitely the things of human instinct can definitely it's so applicable, so wide. I definitely think that I think you might be onto something, especially with songs that come in a little bit later on this album, like Cold Fire, not to get like too ahead of it, where it starts to deal with like relationships. I mean, and that's really what like Counterparts is all about, like interactions between two different things. And, your human instinct trying to react with your response to the outside world. I think that could be one way of looking at like what the song is. Because, if you think about every song on Counterparts as a different examination on a relationship between two things, I think that might be what Stick It Out is about. Your relationship to like how you should be responding to things in the outside world and, what that entails, if that makes any sense.
Well, let's move.
Yeah, this isn't a concept album, but we do have like, I want to say it's a thematic album,
yeah,
but you
themes.
just have like the same themes. I wouldn't say it's a concept album. Maybe some people feel different, but you just have like the same theme repeating. I don't consider that a concept album.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure. It's
Angels,
definitely
you have
more
the same story throughout the whole album. But
yeah, definitely. When I say concept, I mean the terms of a theme and just that overall connecting narrative of the Counterparts.
Yeah, if we look at concept albums like The Wall or our Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime, we kind of know what we're thinking of for a concept album.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a focal point, a legitimate album of thematic, focal point
Cohesion.
Yes, thank you. So
it's kind of like it's a form of concept album. You could argue like you have storytelling and then you have something that's thematic. I just thought of that on the spot. Sorry.
Well, it all works. So let's get into verse 2. So natural reflex, pendulum swing, you might be too dizzy to do the right thing, trial under fire, ultimate proof, moment of crisis, don't swallow the truth. What are we thinking about that?
Oh, geez.
I feel like it's probably thinking mostly the same stuff, really.
It is a lot of the same stuff, and it's so hard to like initially gather my thoughts because of how ping-pongy the words are. It's it once again to highlight the amazing wordplay that's going on in this song. Natural reflex, pendulum swing, like it's cool, and I like the pendulum swing is just this image coming through. Trial under fire, ultimate proof. That the last verse especially, I think, is what highlights the true meaning of this, like, well, maybe not true meaning, I'm sorry to say that, but what I think of the song personally. Trial under fire, ultimate proof, moment of crisis, don't swallow the truth, as your response to the outside world. Because that's what this is at the end of the day. How you react to these different things, you know, are you going to be the one to just swallow your pride and just be like, okay, whatever, and just like haphazardly do it, or are you going to just be like, nope, screw it, I'm going to go in like full force? I think that's, you know, it's comes down to the how you choose to react to it, and that's what I think this last bit of this verse is.
Mm.
Well,
Like
this
the
time it seems
concept
like
of free will.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, yes. Choose not to decide. You still have made a choice.
There you
I was,
go.
yeah, I was gonna say, seems like he's sort of contradicting himself with the don't swallow the truth rather than don't swallow the lies. So I guess that
Yeah.
kind of depending on the situation you're in, you sometimes have to um either, well, in the chorus it's more like don't let the lie, don't let yourself absorb the lies, like kind of let your truth come out. But in this case, maybe sometimes the truth can actually be more hurtful or more condescending, if that kind of makes sense, because you're like in a moment of crisis. So I mean, like, sounds like I lost my words. Well, I guess that means that certain situations here are kind of like there's no one right answer. Like it's, you know, this might be a little more abstract. So when you want to, you don't always stick it out for the same reasons, kind of.
Yeah. That's a good thing too. So many different situations we find ourselves in where we have to make these very strong, like big lapses of reason, you know. uh it's a lot of it's for different things, you know. You're kind of pushed out of your comfort zone, you're in situations you're not really used to, so it comes down, there's so many different, you know, ways to approach these things. And it can honestly get kind of overwhelming, you know. uh you know, you're thrown into these situations that you have no idea where you're supposed to be doing, especially like if you're entering like a new chapter into your life, or just, you know, just dealing with a whole different kind of worms that you're used to at work or whatever. It can get overwhelming and you start to rely more on your instinct of just like, you know, whatever. You can get angry at a situation, you can get sad about it. um that's kind of interesting thinking about like these lyrics, is that it's not necessarily, it might not be about like a direct head-on adversity from like somebody else. It could be, you know, a completely different thing entirely.
It could be, and that's the best thing about Nero's lyrics is even when he writes something that's more simple and direct, like this song, it really can mean so many things, just depending on depending on your perspective. And I'm having all these like thoughts pop into my head, but this song lyrics also kind of reminds me of Marathon a little bit. I'm looking at actually the lyrics right now. It's reminding me especially of it's not how fast you can go, the force goes into the flow, so on and so forth. You choose how you respond to adversity and where you would like your life to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be
Cool.
any one of different directions. Yeah, I'm realizing there's a lot of tie-ins. Yeah, marathon, free will, and now hold your fire.
Yeah, so it's so great that we can have a discussion about the lyrics that are so in depth like this in a song that's this heavy. So many people might think that this song, you know, like when your Rush moves away from the big, you know, side long epics and stuff, that you listen to a song like this and think, oh, it's just, you know, senseless 90s heavy music. But there's still so much substance to it. It's great. And that's what's so cool about Neil, is that even as they continue to move through the times and adapt their sound, there's still so much here in a shorter song. It's great.
Well, it's interesting to me that there was some, in looking some of this up, I found an interview where Getty referred to the lyrics as so. But but I mean, at the same time too, I mean, if Neil said they were just kind of having fun with the song and, you know, musically and lyrically, and I thought, yeah, I
Mhm.
guess if you're saying we're going to be a three-piece, we're going to play, we're going to get heavy, we're going to just kind of have a rock song, and a lot of rock songs you could think of certain bands where the lyrics are just kind of there as a placeholder. It's like even if Neil wrote placeholder lyrics, he's still putting some thought and some depth into them.
Yeah.
And at this point, we go back into a chorus, and the chorus are the same lyrics, so we don't necessarily have to go back to those lyrics. So I'm going to move on to the bridge. And let's see, what does that bridge say? Each time we bathe our reactions in artificial light, each time we alter the focus to make the wrong move seem right, you get so used to perception, you make yourself a nervous wreck. You get so used to surrender, running back to cover your neck. And then obviously into the solo.
Man, and that solo, it's so good. Honestly, it might be in my top 10 favorite Alex solos personally. I just think the energy it carries is so cool. And, to get, not to get into the live versions if we talk about that later, but the version on Time Machine is friggin' phenomenal. And I think it highlights the incredible production on this album too. I would just like to talk about that for a second. It just sounds so great. This album is heavy, unlike any other album that Rush had made up to this point, in my opinion. And the way that all the sounds just kind of gel off each other is phenomenal here. Anime had amazing production. Stick It Out has done it so far. So far, the album has amazing production, which I think is one of the things that a lot of the Rush community really loves about this album is it just sounds so great. And in moments like this solo, I think it's really like brought to the forefront how great the production is on this record. The bridge itself, the lyrics are really, really cool. I love the switch up in the vibe of the track. Alex uses that little bit more of a spacey guitar.
Yeah.
Geddy's bass line gets a little fun up top on the higher end. It's a really, really cool moment in the track, and it transitions so well into that solo section.
Well, coming off the verses and choruses, I mean, he was for the chords between the riff as far as the chords, he's playing mostly just B's and F's as far as just throwing in some tritones, which people, I think of individuals that might have said, oh, this sounds like Alice in Chains. And it's like, well, have you ever heard Alice in Chains? It really doesn't. It's like people have been using tritones in rock for decades. It happened before the 90s. But yeah, like you were just saying, when we get to the bridge, he just gets into some of those, classic kind of clean tone arpeggios, pretty much straight ahead. But yeah, just a nice contrast, which is one of the things I've always liked about bands like Rush specifically, but bands like that where you do get those contrasting tones. Porcupine Tree is a good example. But anyway, if we stay with Rush and don't go over to Steven Wilson's world, that bridge, I just think of that only a couple of albums ago we were talking about the available light. Now he's bringing in artificial light as a reference to in this bridge, just the way that a lot of us might, as he's saying, just kind of alter our focus or alter focus to make wrong moves seem right. So it still is with the earlier themes of the album, or I'm sorry, the earlier themes of the song, as far as not admitting mistakes or having that kind of fortitude regardless of the situation. I don't know. I'm going to stop talking. Other people should talk.
Yeah, that line, "Each time we bathe our reactions in artificial light," he's sort of bringing to light how a lot of us, just as human beings, we sort of fabricate who we actually are and what we think, just either in order to conform or else we're cast out, or just to seem like a more approachable person in certain high stakes scenarios. But certain things actually do get us angry, and sometimes it's it's okay to let it out, I would say. And it's kind of like letting out this really, really heavy riff and heavy song. As Ryder was saying, this is a very, very heavy album, yet it sounds so good. I would say that is what the future Rush albums were kind of missing, is that they this album does not while it's so heavy, it still focuses a lot on clarity. It's still like you still hear every instrument super, super well. Produced by Peter Collins, same producer as Power Windows, Hold Your Fire. And this is the final album recorded in Le Studio, the very famous Le Studio that Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures, Signals, Angry Under Pressure were all recorded in. So it's kind of got that magic to me. I think Test Freckle was still mixed pretty well, but after that, I just can't seem to get on board with the rest of the way the last few albums sound. Still enjoy the music, but clarity was sacrificed a little bit. And actually, if you guys come on a roll here, can I tell you guys a quick fact about the drums on this song?
Mhm.
So despite Neil's massive kit, he was playing Ludwig's at the time, with zildjian cymbals, tons of toms from 6-inch all the way to like a 20-inch gong drum. Yet, if you listen closely in this song, he does not hit a tom one time. Not one time. You can play the song right now, and it's just traditional kick and snare, hats, ride, and cymbals the whole time. He's emulating a small 3-piece kit, even when he has so many drums in front of him. So
Wow.
that just goes to show that
Did not know
he
that.
knew how to be restrained when he felt that it fit the song. And even if you check the live versions, he never changed that. He never played anything on the toms, even the Time Machine version most recently. So it's clearly a conscious choice, and I think it works for this. I don't think the song needs the flashiest drumming of all time.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
phenomenal.
He really like went back to like the basics.
Trust
Wow,
your
I didn't know
instincts
that.
if it's safely restrained.
Yeah, I was just thinking
you
that.
know?
Oh,
Wow.
Nice.
Such a testament to how great he is as a drummer to be that restrained and to have this drum part sound so full. Yeah, you think about it. The entire song, he doesn't have a crazy big fill part on the auto toms or whatever he used. Yeah, man, that's crazy. That's so weird to think about.
I got something new to listen to for the song. We all do.
Yes,
well,
we all
drummers
do.
probably already have, but those of us who are listening to guitar and bass, it's like, well, okay, I should listen to drums.
That's amazing.
Meanwhile,
Wow.
literally every drummer's like, yeah, you think? Well, but yeah, and
long live Neil. Wow.
exactly.
What an incredible human. Incredible, clever human being. Oh, God bless him.
So the funny thing too, the solo with when they were touring this in '94, because Leifson was using the non tremolo equipped Les Paul, because that wasn't really a thing at the time so much. He basically, like on the recording and certainly Time Machine and whatnot, he was going nuts with the Floyd Rose Bridge, doing a lot of dives, a lot of dips. Did that with the PRS and certainly his signature Les Paul. But at that point, much like I think he did that with YYZ at one point, as far as not using a tremolo equipped guitar, just to kind of change his phrasing a little bit, saying, "Oh, I want to play this Les Paul for that heavy punch that it has, but I'm not going to use work the bridge." So it's kind of a nice little change up, I think. My personal, just personal opinion of the solo. D minor pentatonic, it fits the song. You can't go wrong. I'm not trying to rhyme. I'm not Neil. I don't want to take our time. So re-intro back into the song. Little bit of a subtle kind of short verse. Heat of the moment, curse of the young, spit out your anger, don't swallow your tongue. Once again, another repeat from an earlier, just basically copy and paste, but in a more intentional fashion. Like Neil's repeating things. We don't know what's up with that. It's the Donna rule. What did we say last week? I gotta review what he said as far as the Donna rule. Anyway.
If Neil repeats something in a song, it's important.
Right.
Exactly.
So man, to think about that. Heat of the moment, curse the young. That's definitely that's heat of the moment, curse the young. The heat of the moment is like the how intense things might seem in the moment and how once again how you respond to it. It's kind of and I like Geddy's vocal inflection when he comes back on this. Yeah. It's a little bit different. You notice it. It's cool. Makes the song feel a lot more dynamic as it goes into what I think it's what the double chorus that kind of rides it out. It's cool. Definitely a neat moment coming out of the solo.
And also
when you think about it, when you're younger, I'm 28, but I've looked back recently on how I was when I was 18, 19, 20, writer's age. And when you're young, you tend to be more naive, you tend to be more reactionary, and you tend to get angry or annoyed at smaller things. And then I don't know, I mean, as I've grown older, now that I'm in my later 20s, there are little things that just don't bug me anymore that I can just wave off and be like, oh, you know what, in the grand scheme of things, it's not really a big deal. So, you know, as we mature, it just seems like we become less bothered by certain things. It's just a part of getting older and experiencing life. So I wonder if Neil is sort of like talking about maybe his like younger selves or their younger selves somewhat. Maybe that's why he's repeating it. I mean, we
I would
don't really
assume.
know. We can't
Mhm.
ask him,
But
but
also,
that's my take.
I mean, the idea of writing songs that are universal to any of the listeners.
Yeah, that's the thing too, like how applicable these lyrics are. What we were saying earlier about how there's so many different ways, like how these situations can go. These lyrics are so applicable because it's about the general theme, and in my opinion, it's about the general theme of reaction.
Mhm.
You know, and that's such a, you know, how you respond to something that's so wide of a topic. It's so cool.
And yeah, I mean, I was sitting in a college dorm listening to this album on October 19th of 1993. So it's like it
Mhm.
was applicable. Which I
That's
also think
so
it's
cool.
I just like the fact that this comes back where, you know, I just think about when we were working the logistics of this particular recording that our imperious leader basically said it's going to be Alex and the kids, and it's like, which I think is kind of, you know, as they say, kind of applicable as far as the heat of the moment, curse of the young, and all that stuff. It's like, there you go. 20
Yeah,
is not really
goodness.
considered a kid so much,
I'm 28.
but
Yeah.
but when you're
So
older
much
than,
responsibility, but I still feel so young. I still can't have a beer. What's up with that? You know?
especially if you work
Probably
in
able
that
to do in
setting.
Canada.
Yeah, for real.
So in this case, yeah, long double chorus, as Ryder said. So I mean, I mentioned, of course, you know, I mentioned last week too that my go-to for any of the Counterparts songs would basically be the Auburn Hills videos that you can find on YouTube, because I just feel like
Yes.
it was just such a good tour, and the documentation of that just proves it, in my opinion. Does anyone have any live versions they prefer?
Yeah, the Auburn Hills version is definitely very good. I like the version that was on different stages a lot. That was one of my first big exposures to that song. But my personal favorite is the Time Machine version.
Hmm.
I love how the so sounds, and Getty has a lot more. He slips in a lot more really frenetic fills.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's a very interesting version. If you're really familiar with this song, check out that version, because there's a couple of moments that I feel like their parts get a little bit more involved. Super super cool version. Also recorded in my hometown, so you know.
Right. I see what you mean there, Ryder. I would probably also agree more with Alex that I like the Counterparts tour versions most. Although there's actually a bootleg from one of the two Madison Square Garden shows in 1994 that isn't pro shot like Auburn Hills, but
Hmm.
someone had a great mic on their camera, and it just really kind of emulated that very punchy, clean sound, and they just sound so tight there. So you can look it up. It's on YouTube. There are a few re-uploads. Snow Dog has the highest quality version. I also like the Counterparts tour in general because they end with the crazy pyros, and the Test Freco and Time Machine tours unfortunately do not. The da 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 ba con and sparks fly everywhere.
Yeah.
So I thought that was the Counterparts tour had a lot of pyro overall, and so I really wish I was alive to see that.
I just discovered a video, oh man, from the Counterparts tour. I found it on YouTube today. It's when they had a concert in Michigan. I don't even remember the date because I just found it today on YouTube by someone random. But it is not my favorite because even though I watched it once, Alex told some really stupid joke, and I'm like, oh my
Hmm.
god, it's just lurks being lurks, and I love when Getty and Alex are just like joking around each other because Alex is just crazy goofball. So
Well, I think
now
it's when
that
he was
one's
saying
my new
Stanley Cup
favorite.
things. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, yeah, I love just like that, like that playfulness between them. Well, hi Larks. Well, hi Dirk. He's like, and Larks is like, well, I think we won something. I don't know what it was, Stanley Cup or something. And it's just his humor. It just made me die on the floor laughing, literally. So that's
Nice.
not my new favorite,
Yeah,
but
then he said,
love Time Machine, love different stages as well. I'm not that picky.
yeah, I think that was maybe the only song that Alex Lifeson ever introduced himself. He said, "Thanks for sticking it out with us. This is called Stick It Out on the Counterparts tour." So that was a cool way to go
And
from
oh,
great appreciation to song.
how could we forget the video, which you guys had mentioned earlier, also appeared in Beavis and Butthead. There's an episode which is on YouTube. You can look that up. It's like a minute and a half where the video begins, and clearly Mike Judge is not a Rush fan, because he had episodes where Beavis and Butthead were flipping out to see the Fabulous Thunderbirds, Texas band, Pantera, Texas band, and then when Rush comes on, it's just sort of, oh, this is Rush. It's worth a watch. Just saying. It's sort of the one video that made it to Beavis and Butthead, which for anyone who was alive in the 90s, you know that actually, shockingly, that was a rather big thing back then.
Quite prestigious.
Yeah, oddly enough, it really was. So
check that out. I will.
Yeah. So I guess unless we have any other things to say about Stick It Out, perhaps that might bring us to the close of this episode. We have lyrics, we have riffs, we have people that don't like it for some reason. Well, it's life, half the world doesn't know what's good for them.
Yeah.
So
got a great song about a guy on a chair on top of a pole.
Exactly. So thank you for being here. Feel free to comment. Feel free to join the discussion. Feel free to check out the Stick It Out episodes that Ryder and Tal were on. Not so much about this song. This is the song, but obviously it's another story. Go check it out. Just do it. So once again, thank you for being here. Next week on to episode 192.